Welcome to Thursdays with Franco, where we talk technology, projects, and emerging trends, all with Oracle Cloud infrastructure, and more than likely with Autonomous Database and Apex. Hey, Stuart, how are you?
Good, thank you. Enjoying the nice weather outside, although not in here, obviously. But
And Chris, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Franco. Having the time of my life. Looking
Very
forward to
good.
today's session.
So today it's actually session number 4 out of our 5-part series. And today we've actually got Stuart introducing us to the Gen AI services that we've got access to out of OCI. So Stuart, take it away.
thank you, thank you. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about the Gen AI services that are in OCI, and my favourite of them all, Gen AI agents. And then I'll show you a little bit of the code and how to get wired up into Apex. Get my screen. There we go. I know you're going to ask me to make it bigger in a second. So I will do that. There's me for those that want to connect. So let's get straight into it. So I've gone into the Oracle Cloud Console, and underneath Analytics and AI, we've got this list of services. So the first one we're going to look at is Generative AI. So you're welcomed with this now. There's a couple of things. So we've got some pre-trained models, which is what I'm going to show. But I do want to just highlight that it is possible to take one of the existing models and train them on your own dedicated AI clusters. And that's where our AI infrastructure and the GPU sort of services come to play. So just bear in mind. So I'm not going to talk about those today. I'm going to go with the pre-trained models. And the obvious place to start is what we all recognize as chat. Now, this is an interesting space because we have to come in here regularly because this changes. Well, this list of services gets added to on a regular basis. It also gets pruned. So a lot of the older ones that are no longer current are getting pruned. So I'm able to choose, some of these models. I can see a bit more detail here about the models. And what I will say, in fact, I had a customer meeting today where we talked about this, is that sometimes different models provide different responses depending on the context. And some of them are a little newer than others. So I'll give you a couple of examples of that. But again, you can see a little bit here about the sort of model inputs and what's required. There's some work here you can do on tuning. So again, because we charge based on the tokens, what you want to do is just set a few of these things so that you start to tune these. Now, obviously, you wouldn't use this console. You use an API generally to connect to these. But if I type in,
So Stu, before you go too far, the point
yeah,
you're making, can you just flick the model choice again for me?
yeah, yeah.
So there was a bunch of things you said. I go, wow. So it's not as if I've got to pick one or the other. I've actually, what Oracle provides, it provides this rich tapestry of choices of all these different models. And it looks like these models have got slightly different personalities. It's got that instruct, vision instruct, fast, mini, code, fast. So what you're highlighting is that me as an organization, I could have 2 or 3 of these running for different needs and I can plug and play accordingly.
I think you absolutely would. And to quote a cliche, it's absolutely horses for courses. So you'll get different responses, and it depends on what you need. And obviously, vision instruct. Well, you can see right here on this page, because I think I've got vision. I can use images and things in here. So, what we spoke about last week, if you watched last week's episode when we talked a little, Chris asked about the image processing. Again, I could do that here where I can upload an image and ask questions about it. Now, not all the models have that. So if I go to this one, for instance, and I just have to confirm, by the way, some of these are not available in different countries. So I have read all of those, honest. so that when I accept those terms and conditions, I think I clicked it. So, okay, so that one does do imagery. So if I just do xgrok, okay, that one does images too.
We
Of
just
course
shows
they
you.
do, but they all do different things. Right?
Yeah, they're all continually improving and getting
Yeah,
more
they are.
and more benefits as well. And you made another point before. I know I'm slowing you down, but
That's okay.
what you've highlighted is it effectively takes me 5 minutes for me to start using these Gen AI services, and I can try different ones for different needs, get used to what prompts are going to make sense. And then
Yeah.
if I want to, I could actually set up a dedicated cluster as well to do some additional things.
Yeah, the dedicated cluster, but when you want to train it with your own model. So essentially, these models are in isolation in your tenancy.
Yeah.
We don't learn from the data that gets sent in here. Obviously, if you want to learn from your own data, that's when you would set up these dedicated models. So, for instance, you could, and there's another way to do this, which we're not going to cover today, which is a thing called quick actions in data science, where you can extract a model from Hugging Face and you can host that. This would be, some pre-trained models that we host. If you want to train them with your own set of, there's obviously medical ones, but you might want to train it on medical data or something like that.
Yeah.
So, they're very specific use cases in that case. And that's a whole sort of, career in itself, training models.
Okay, I'll let you get back to your train
Yeah,
of
thanks.
thought there.
Yeah. What I just wanted to highlight is, if I quickly, and no one wants to watch me talk, 2024 important. I'll just copy that because I'm going to do that again in a second. So when I run that in here, remember this is Metalama 90B. So it's clearly a little bit old and it's telling you here the December cutoff. So it doesn't actually know the answer to this one. So this is when, again, you take a model that might be slightly older, it may not have current data. Some of the models will do web search as well. But as an example, if I go to Grok, I think Grok does know the answer to this. Because I think he cuts off, yeah, there you go. So he's telling me that Max won the World Championship. If I ask who won Monza GP 2025, it doesn't know. So it actually doesn't have data up until the last few weeks. So that's where some of the differences come in terms of the models, some of the cost differences, of course. So yeah, it doesn't think it's taken place yet. So that just means the data is a little bit, it's to some degree stale, but that may not matter depending on your use case. Okay.
Yeah.
So plenty of choice there. There's a couple of examples you can do here. Generate a job, the good old generate stuff. You'll notice that we essentially deprecated the generation summarization because those you can just do as part of chat. If you want to do vector embedding and you don't want to load the neural network, the Onyx model, into the database, which I can't remember if we've covered it before, but the vector database, you can do embedding in here. So as a really, really quick example, just in the interest of time, these are our embed models. So you can see the list there. And if I just quickly go billing communications, it's entered a list of, these would be vectorized. So when I run this, you'll see it does a graph of the vectors. And what it's telling me here is that number 2 and number 3 are very similar. So if I go and look at them, I can see that this one is about billing system and this one is about a billing system. So that makes sense. So this is, you can run your vectors inside the database or in Apex, or you can do it using this model you can use as an API.
That's cool.
Yeah, cool. So my favorite of all, this one's a little bit more convoluted, but it's very, very cool. What we have is a thing called generative AI agents. What this allows is for us to create a series of data sources, structured and unstructured data sources. You create a series of knowledge bases, and then you're able to ask questions across the knowledge bases. So if you have an object store full of PDF documents, if you have a database with some data in it, all of those could be used as sources. So this is actually pretty cool. So we've got a couple of agents configured already. I've got my AI agent here, my endpoints. If I go to my knowledge base, which is what the agent connects to, I can see that in this case, this one is the object store. I can add different types of endpoints. That's a data source. I can actually create a different. So this knowledge base is for object store. You can have SQL queries. You can have open search.
Am I going to you up?
Sorry. Oh, okay.
My bad.
So that's all good. So you can have an open search endpoint as well, so you can search unstructured data. So this one is very, very cool. And just to quickly show you what that looks like, we've got some PDFs sat in here. So if I choose which agent I want and then which endpoint I want. So again, this is pre-configured data source. Happen to know that there's a board report from Ambulance Victoria. Oh, come on. So this is going all the way through all of those back-end object stores and databases that we've got connected, and it's going to go and try and find the answer. So again, anyone that's seen some of the RAG that we do, where we ask a question and we go back to a data source, these are agents across various landscapes. So if you think of some of the data lake, data platform things that we've got, this is where this would go. So it's kind of neat. And it's giving me a bit more data, giving me a citation of which report it's got that data from. So it's actually quite a neat use case, this one. So obviously I'm using the console here. You could use that from Apex or something like that. So that's
And so,
pretty
Stu,
neat.
this is just looking at the document itself. It's not doing any vector searches.
Actually, what I believe it does is it does do a vectorization of the, so when you create the agent, it vectorizes the data in those in those data sources, so that's how it does the search. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't see that specifically when you create the object, or sorry, the data sources. Yeah, it goes off and runs an agent across all of those data sources and all the objects it can see within itself to go and get this. I think it stores it in open search. You have to you configure an open search as part of this.
So I played with Gen AI agents, I think maybe about 3 months ago, and
Yeah.
I did load a handful of PDFs and was quite impressed with how you could open that up and enable it. But you made the point now, it's not just PDFs and documents, you can actually hook it into databases as well now.
Yeah, the data sources is actually quite neat. I'm going to see if I can quickly fire one up.
Well,
So
you
they're
don't
all,
have to. Maybe it becomes,
you,
we
well,
could
no,
do,
no, no. Here we go. There they are. There they are straight away. So I've got them straight away. So I've got my RAG source. I've got my SQL. I've got custom tool. So there's basically quite a few that you
yeah.
can configure, and I can create new knowledge bases. Like I said, I can create open search cluster and search in there if I've got some ETL loading an open search cluster. So it's actually really, really neat. It's every time we've shown this demo, it's got a lot of really good sort of feedback. I suppose the big downside is the elephant in the room, which is what's highlighted at the top of the screen. So we do talk about being able to run these locally and host our own agents and LLMs and that sort of thing. So, obviously, that's a different conversation. I think for the purpose of sandboxing and testing what's possible, then I absolutely would encourage this approach.
So I think it's worth just highlighting. Oracle basically gives you this sandpit environment you can start using based out of Chicago straight away. And it's all set up, ready to go. And then when you decide what you want your operational or your production environment, we then can have a conversation about how do we set something up that makes sense from your own needs, whether it's a sovereign thing, whether it's a private subnet thing, we can then have a conversation specifically there.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to highlight that we're adding models all the time. So you might have seen in the press the Google models, the OpenAI models. So there's quite a lot of models now that get added through the API services.
That's
So
cool.
and they're available in different places, but so it's pretty neat. It's pretty comprehensive. So just to be clear, we don't have our own LLMs. We obviously we rebadge others, and it's built through OCI, not through external services. You know, as I think I said this controversially last week, the documentation's really good. If you go into the documentation, you know, people don't, I know, but it's all there. So there's code there. You can even just copy and paste the code. And all you got to do is put your compartments in and put in your credentials, and you know you're good to go. It's actually pretty simple.
And Stuart, I'm actually quite lazy. I'll actually even ask the question in the Gen AI harness itself,
Yeah,
and then it will give me a little kick in the bum.
yeah. I like your thinking. You know what's easier though?
What's that?
And you know I'm going to do this anyway.
Right.
So obviously in Apex 24.1 we added Gen AI services. So if you go to the workspace utilities, we now have generative AI. So you can configure your backend
Oh, can you
generative
make it
AI.
bigger? Bigger
Oh
and
yeah, of
sorry,
course. Yeah,
Stu.
yeah. Yes, yes. So again, you know, I can configure the Gen AI service, the ones I've just showing you. So I tell it my compartment, which region I want, and you can see the available regions there, right? So it's not just Chicago, but and then you type in which model you want, the inference URL, and in this case, I'm using this for the app builder in Apex. So it's that simple to get that configured. I just want to quickly show, in the interest of time, I think we're good. But the vector providers, when I talked about the embedding, so you'll know that you can, well, sorry, you may not, but you can load an ONNX, an Oracle Open Neural Network Exchange model, which is basically a vector embedding model. You can load them straight into the database. But the good news is you don't have to. You can go and use a generative AI service from somewhere else. So again, I can go and now configure the same as I did before. I can now go and configure one of those embedding services that I just showed. And then you've got vector providers as part of Apex.
And I think, Stu, what we'll do one of these sessions, because today we've shown the background of our Gen AI services. In
Yep.
a future session, let's actually show what can I do with very little knowledge about Gen AI, little knowledge about ADB, and little knowledge of Apex, and how can we build something? So not
Yep.
today, but in
Yep.
another session. So I think you're
Okay.
inspiring me that there's a lot more to show in the TWF. Shall we wrap it
Yeah.
up there and open
Yeah,
up for
that's me
questions?
done. I mean, obviously, I think we'll move on to questions and things.
Okay. Okay, so that's it for today.